I guess one thing I'm kind of curious about, which I've had conversations with the other actors in Star Trek Renegades about, is having been involved with the franchise for 40 plus years now.
I think it's 120.
Is it actually 120? I'm sorry, I got I got that number wrong. My first question for you is, how have things changed over time? I've seen some photos of like the very first Star Trek convention where some guys sort of got a hotel ballroom and invited the actors to come hang out. And now it's an industry. And I assume you, if you chose to, could probably spend every weekend of the year traveling to some convention somewhere in the world. Your thoughts on that part of the phenomenon?
Well, I think it's, in many ways, I think it's really super. It's so nice to be embraced by the public and have that support and reinforcement, and to make you feel like you're still a player, even if you're not. You know, even if it's 20 years between jobs. So I like all of that. I like the fact people come up to me and say, you know, I thought you were really great in Star Trek, or I loved you as Bester in Babylon 5. So I don't take any of that for granted. In fact, the further away I get from being an active participant in this business, the more solace I feel when somebody remembers past performances. Curious, but there was a time when my reaction was just the opposite. And I think this has to do with the advanced years that I am now occupying. When I was in my 50s, I guess, and people they'd have these conventions and they'd tell me how wonderful I was, and I felt very self-conscious about it because I wasn't doing Star Trek. We were off the air, and at that juncture, I felt I was sort of accepting praise for something that I wasn't contributing to. That made me feel very uncomfortable. When we started making the movies, it was better, because then I felt like I was viable again, you know, and the project was viable. But I guess it was my 40s when I had these feelings of, you know, there's a story that's told about the fellow who played the Lone Ranger, and when the people who owned the rights took the mask away, he wore sunglasses, you know, because he wanted to maintain that character. There was a time when I would have done anything to play another character, to play somebody else, to be not so totally identified as this guy with a lousy Russian accent. I was, a matter of fact, I'm going to, it's a long story.
Please.
But I was at one juncture, and it was like the early 70s. They were looking, they were going to make a movie of the week, or I think it was a two-part movie of the week called Helter Skelter. And it was a story about Charles Manson and the people who followed him. And it's a terrible story, and he did some, you know, terrible things. But as an actor, you know, there's a lot to chew on there, and a lot of ways to build that character and make it come alive for you, you know. And it turned out there was nobody in Hollywood they could find to play this part. Absolutely, that's what I was told. It took 3 interviews to get me into the director. Twice, casting directors called up and said, "You should see Walter." I finally came in. I read the character. I did the 2 things he did ask me not to do. He says, "Don't memorize the lines," and he said, "And don't try to affect his voice." Affect his voice. I said, "Okay." I went to a drive-in where they were playing a documentary on Charles Manson, and I studied his voice and I memorized the lines. And when I came in, he was looking down, and I started. And when he looked up, he said, "My God, that's Charlie Manson." So I felt really good about that. I didn't get it, obviously. A terrific actor who was promoted by Elia Kazan, one of the great stage and film directors in this country or anywhere, was very keen on this other chap, and that was the end. And that was the end of that. But I still took away some very positive feelings, and I thought, geez, this is like the guy's running after the train, and he gets to the platform just as the doors close. You know, my life might have gone on a whole different route if I had caught that train. It certainly would have. People would have seen Walter Koenig in a different light. They would not have seen him as the plucky Mr. Chekhov.